Hi everyone. So today we are going to discuss about jet propulsions. So before getting into the topic, let me share my presentation with you. Okay. Here it is. So this is about the jet propulsion. So in this presentation, I'm going to share with you all this contents introduction. So we're having to discuss about some of the important points about the jet propulsion in the introduction itself, and then we are going to discuss about the history, the main history at present, the existence of the jet propulsion in the present days. What is the main reason? What was the main reason in the past days which led to the existence of the aircrafts and the jet propulsion engines in the present days? So we are going to discuss about that history at present, and then we are going to also discuss about the layout of the jet engine, the basic component layout of the jet engine, and then the classifications of jet propulsions. So classifications of jet propulsion is nothing but classifications of jet propulsion is nothing but the different types of jet propulsion engines. So we are also going to discuss about the basic layout of the rocket engine too, and then the fuels which we are using in this propulsion unit. So these are the contents which I'm going to share in the next few minutes. So first thing is the introduction about the jet propulsion engines. So we are very well known that these jet propulsion engines are actually used to drive the aircrafts with very high speeds, and this is achieved. We all know that when the combustion chamber produces high amount of heat at the time of combustion, when high amount of heat is liberated at the time of combustion, so when the hot gas starts expanding towards the turbine blades, the turbine blade starts rotating, and through the nozzle from the backside of the aircraft, when these hot gases starts flowing towards the outward direction through the nozzle with a high velocity, then the aircraft moves into the forward direction. So this is what we actually call it as thrust. When the exhaust gases from the nozzle with a high velocity push the aircrafts to the forward direction, this is what we call it as the thrust. And these rocket engines, sorry, and these jet engines, the jet propulsions, actually run with the Newton's third law of motion. This is what the Newton's third law of motion is based upon. For every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. So this is what the Newton's third law teaches. So here, for every action means when the hot gas or the exhaust gas starts expanding through the nozzle with a high velocity in the backward direction, then the aircraft moves with the forward direction with a high speed. So the components that are the engine parts which we are using in the aircrafts are very less and simple in design. So these are some of the advantages of the aircrafts to move even faster. So this is about the introduction, and so now let's discuss about the history of the jet propulsion engines. So Sir Isaac Newton in the 18th century, he first theorized that the engines can move with a forward direction with a high speed when the exhaust gases are releasing into the from the backward direction with a high velocity. When the exhaust gases with high velocity are moving to the rearward direction with high velocity, then the engine can move forward with high speed. So this is what the theory which was proposed by Sir Isaac Newton in 18th century. And then based on this theory, in 1874, Felix de Temple, he first powered the coal-fired steam engine. And then in 1903, the White brothers, they first designed the 12 horsepower gas turbine engine. And now a Frank Whittle, this was the first existence of first turbojet engine in the year 1930 by Frank Whittle. He was a British pilot. So this is about the history. Now at present, how the aircrafts came into the existence. So based on all the history, the modifications took place, and now uh, the aircrafts came into existence. So this is the layout of a jet engine. So we are very well known about the jet engine's layout here. So here this is the compressor which is used to compress the atmospheric air, and this high pressurized air is further flown to the combustion chamber. So this is the combustion chamber where combustion takes place when fuel and air mixes. So this is the fuel from where the fuel is supplied. Over 20 nozzles are present here to supply the fuel continuously into the combustion chamber for for continuous combustion. So, and this is the turbine from where the hot gas starts expanding through the turbine blades and where the energy is produced, and some of the energy is further transmitted to the compressor as well as to the fan, which is present here, which will be present here in front of the propulsion unit. For this too, the turbine distributes some amount of power through the shaft. Okay, so this is the nozzle where we can see the exhaust gases are moving in the outward direction with high velocities. So now let us check out the working principle of this layout of jet engine. So here there will be a fan which is responsible for sucking high amount of atmospheric air into the propulsion unit. Okay, so here the air is further separated into two parts. One is used for combustion purpose and the other part is used to cool the engine parts. Okay, in order to resist from the excess heating of the engine, so some amount of the air is used for cooling. Okay, so the air which is used for combustion is first uh, here supplied to the compressor. We can see here, so the compressor, the air is compressed. So here the air is compressed, and in most of the jet engines we are using axial flow compressor. So the most of the compressors, I mean in the jet engines, we use either axial flow compressor or centrifugal flow compressor. So based on the pressure ratios, we can see that the pressure ratio is around 17 to 20 for axial flow compressor, as well as for centrifugal compressor there is around 15 to 17 the pressure ratio for the centrifugal compressor. So before getting into the pressure ratios, so first let me explain you what is pressure ratio. Pressure ratio is nothing but the stagnation, the pressure that is stagnant at the front end and the rear end of the compressor. It is called as a pressure ratio. Pressure ratio is nothing but the pressure that is stagnant, that is present at the front end to the rear end of the compressor. It is simply called it as the pressure ratio. Okay, so here the air is compressed in the compressor, and the compressed air is further supplied to the combustion chamber. Here we can see the combustion chamber where around 20 nozzles are present here in the, to supply the fuel to the combustion chamber. So when the fuel air mixes here, we all know that when air is compressed, the temperature is also increased. When the pressure is increased, the temperature of the air is also increased. So here when the fuel and air mixes here, the combustion takes place. Okay, and around 2700 degrees Celsius of temperature is produced in the combustion chamber. So when the hot gas starts expanding towards the turbine, here the turbine blades start rotating and it produces power. So this power is further transmitted to the compressor as well as to the fan through the shaft. Okay, so in between the turbine as well as the nozzle, there will be a premixer which is used to mix the hot gases which are flowing from the turbine as well as the air which is used to cool the engine parts. So these both mix in the premixer, and from the premixer here they flow towards the nozzle, and here from the nozzle these gases exerts out from the rearward direction of the aircraft with high velocity, and then the aircraft moves with a high speed to the forward direction. So this is about the layout of a jet engine. Okay, and so these are the components of the basic layout of a jet engine. And one thing I have forgotten to say is that here in the combustion chamber, in order to resist excess amount of heat, the walls of the combustion chamber is covered with ceramic material, which is used to resist high amount of heat at the time of combustion. So this is the basic layout of jet engine, and this is the types of jet propulsion. We all know that jet propulsion is further divided into two types: atmospheric jet engines, rocket engines. So atmospheric jet engines are nothing but these are dependent upon the atmosphere. Because these travel in the atmosphere itself, hence they only carry fuel with it. They do not carry any kind of oxidizer tanks with this. So when it comes to the rocket engines, these are specially designed to travel in space, that is in vacuum where there is no atmospheric air present. So uh, in order to make the combustion possible in the rocket engines, what these engines are doing is that they carry their own oxidizer tank along with the fuel in the rocket engines. So this is about the rocket engine and the atmospheric jet engines. So, and again, these atmospheric jet engines are further divided into three types: turbopropeller engine and turbojet engine and ramjet engine. So now let us take a look about this turbopropeller engine, turbojet engine, ramjet engine, and further we're also going to discuss about this rocket engine too. So this is about the turbopropeller unit, where we can see a diagram, a simple diagram of a turbopropeller unit. So this is the propeller which is responsible for sucking high amount of atmospheric air into the propulsion unit. And this is a gearbox where set of reduction gears are present. This is the shaft which is used to transmit the power produced from the turbine to the compressor as well as to the propeller. And this is the compressor where air gets compressed. And this is the combustion chamber where air and fuel gets mixed up here and combustion takes place. The turbine where is used to produce the power, and then the nozzle from where the exhaust gases exerts out high velocity. So now let's take a look of the working of the turbopropeller unit. So when the propeller sucks high amount of atmospheric air into the propulsion unit, then what happens is that this air is further transmitted to the diffuser. There will be a diffuser in front of in between the compressor as well as the propeller. There will be a diffuser here, and this diffuser is responsible for reducing the velocity of the atmospheric air and thereby slightly increasing the pressure. Okay, then from the diffuser the air is further transmitted to the compressor here. So this compressor is responsible for compressing the atmospheric air, uh, and thus this high pressured atmospheric air from the compressor, this is further transmitted to the combustion chamber, and where the combustion takes place, where the air and fuel gets mixed up here, and the hot gases starts expanding towards the turbine, and the turbine starts generating energy, and this energy is further transmitted to the compressor as well as to the propeller with the help of the shaft. Okay, here there is a reduction gears. We should not forget about this, because this plays an important role in making this propeller to rotate. Okay, so we all know that at what speed this propeller run. So these propellers rotate at a speed of 700 kilometers per hour. So when compared to the turbine blades, this speed is very less. So from this we can understand that the propeller blades cannot run, I mean cannot rotate with that much speed when compared to the turbine blades. So in order to supply required amount of energy to the propeller, so here a set of reduction gears are present. So these gears are responsible for reducing the speed of the shaft. So then the required amount of energy is supplied to the propeller, and then propeller starts rotating. So one thing it is clear that propellers cannot rotate with a high speed when compared to the turbine. So, and propellers have the capability to run, I mean to rotate at a speed of 700 kilometers per hour. So this is what. Okay, so and when the exhaust gas starts moving outward with a high velocity through the nozzle, then the propeller, I mean the engine, the aircrafts move with a forward direction with a high speed. Okay, so this is about the propeller unit. And one thing we have to consider here is that uh, maximum amount of thrust, around 80 to 90% of the thrust is produced in the by the propeller only, and then 10 to 20% of the thrust is produced due to the reaction of hot gases in the combustion chamber. Okay, so here this propeller plays an important vital role for production of thrust for this turbopropeller unit. And then this is the notes regarding this turbopropeller unit, and this is the turbojet engine. Now we are going to discuss about this. The only basic difference between turbopropeller unit and turbojet engine is that there is an absence of propeller in the turbojet engine. That's it. There is no much more difference in this turbojet engine. And this is the diffuser where we can see here, and the air gets sucked into the engine unit with the help of diffuser, where the diffuser is responsible for reducing the velocity of the atmospheric air and thereby slightly increasing the pressure. And from this atmospheric air is further transmitted to the compressor, where compression takes place with a high pressurized this compression with the high pressurized atmospheric air. starts flowing towards the combustion chamber where combustion takes place, and the hot gases starts expanding towards the turbine blades where the turbine blade starts moving, rotating, and then the energy is produced. This energy is transmitted to the compressor with the help of a shaft. Remember one thing, in turbojet engine, the energy is transmitted by the turbine to the compressor with the help of shaft. Okay, and when it comes to the turbo propeller unit, the energy is produced by the turbine, and this energy is further transmitted to the compressor as well as to the propeller with the help of shaft in turbo propeller in the turbo propeller unit. Okay, and then the exhaust gases starts flowing towards the exhaust, I mean towards the rearward direction with a high velocity, and then the turbojet engine moves to the forward direction with a high speed. So this is about turbojet engine, and this jet engine is highly capable for the aircrafts which are moving at a speed of 800 kilometers per hour. And one thing we have to consider for turbo propeller unit as well as turbojet engine, these have the ability to move with a speed of around up to 3.5 Mach, that is up to a supersonic velocity. We all know that Mach 1 Mach is almost 1235 kilometers per hour. I mean this is 1235 kilometers per hour is the speed of a sound. Okay, so this is what we are representing as 1 Mach. 1235 is equal to 1 Mach. So here turbojet engine as well as turbopropeller engine have the capability to move up to 3.5 Mach itself. Okay, so this is one thing we have to consider about it, and this the 0 to 3.5 Mach is called as, I mean these have the capability to move with a speed of supersonic speed. So this is what we call it as supersonic speed. When an object moves above 1235 kilometers per hour speed, then it is called as supersonic speed. Okay, and then when an object moves below 1235 kilometers per hour speed, it is called it as subsonic speed. I mean below the supersonic speed it is called as subsonic speed. Okay, when it is above 1 Mach, then we are considering it as supersonic speed. Okay, so this is about turbojet engine. Now let us discuss about the ramjet engine. Here ramjet engine, there is no propeller, there is no combustion chamber, sorry, there is no compressor here, and there is no turbine. There is a combustion chamber for sure, there will be a combustion chamber for everything. Okay, so there is no propeller and there is no compressor and there is no turbine here. Okay, so the air gets sucked into the engine unit with the help of a diffuser which is present here. This diffuser is responsible for, as I have already said earlier, this is responsible for reducing the velocity of the atmospheric air and thereby increasing the pressure of the atmospheric air, and this pressurized atmospheric air is further transmitted to the combustion chamber where this combustion chamber is responsible for combustion when air and fuel mixes here. With the help of fuel nozzles, we can see the fuel gets supplied here in the combustion chamber and the combustion takes place. So for initial ignition, here this ramjet engine is provided with a spark plug. Okay, and then the hot gas starts expanding, move forward, move backward, I mean to the rearwards through the nozzle with a high velocity, and then the ramjet engine moves forward with a high speed. And here one thing we have to consider is that this shutter valves which is present here, this is present in front of the diffuser. Okay, and this regulates the excess amount of atmospheric air. This regulates from entering the atmospheric air excessively into the combustion chamber. Okay, so when there is a pressure difference in the combustion chamber, so according to the pressure difference only, here this shutter valve opens or closes. I mean these are automatically operated according to the pressure difference present in the combustion chamber. Okay, so when there is a reduction or when there is a reduce in the pressure, then these shutter valve starts opening, and then this allows the air to enter into the diffuser, and then the diffuser is responsible for reducing the velocity as well as increasing the pressure. And once the pressure in the combustion chamber is balanced, then this shutter valve closes. Okay, and then the process continues. These gases moves to the rearward direction through the nozzle with a high velocity, and then the jet engine moves forward with a high speed. Okay, and these jet engines, I mean this ramjet engine especially moves with a speed of 3.5, I mean up to from 3.5 mach to around 6 mach. Okay, 3.5 mach to 6 mach. This has the ability. Okay, I mean this is about to move up to hypersonic velocity, hypersonic speed. We all know that hypersonic speed is from 5 mach to 10 mach. Okay, 5 mach to 10 mach, which we are calling it as a hypersonic speed. Okay, so this has the ability to uh, develop its speed from supersonic speed to hypersonic speed. Okay, this is what the ramjet engine is. And the air fuel ratio of this ramjet engine is up to 15 is to 1. Okay, then comes to the rocket engine. So this rocket engine, we are very well known about this rocket engine. These rocket engines are very, I mean these are actually designed to run in the vacuum, I mean in the space. Okay, so and these can have the ability, these are independent to the atmosphere, so this can travel either in atmosphere as well as out of the atmosphere, because they carry their own oxidizer tank with this. Okay, along with the fuel tank, they are also carrying their own oxidizer tank with this. So these are independent to the atmosphere. And here, this is the payload section, the upper of the fuel tank. Here there will be a payload section where the astronauts or the satellites, all these things are placed here. And then the fuel tank followed by the hydrogen tank, where hydrogen peroxide is present here. Okay, and then the oxidizer tank, where liquid oxygen is present here. And this is the steam turbine, which is used to generate power to the pumps P1 and P2, which these P1 and P2, I mean the pumps P1 and P2 are responsible for supplying the fuel and oxidizer to the combustion chamber. Okay, here in the oxidizer tank, the liquid oxygen's temperature is around 100 and minus 183 degrees Celsius, and the temperature in the hydrogen tank is around minus 253 degrees Celsius. Okay, and okay, now let's discuss about the working of the rocket engine. So the pumps P1 and P2 are provided by the power with the help of the steam turbine. Okay, so these pumps P1 and P2 pump the fuel and liquid oxygen to the combustion chamber. Okay, here the combustion takes place. So now the question is how the steam turbine produces power. So here there is an hydrogen peroxide. So when this hydrogen peroxide starts reacting with the calcium carbonate, then what happens is that steam is generated, and that steam is further produced, is used to generate power to the steam turbine. Okay, so this steam is further transmitted to the pumps P1 and P2, and these pumps P1 and P2 supplies the fuel and liquid oxygen to the combustion chamber, where the combustion takes place here. And then the gas starts expanding and with a high velocity through the nozzle and from the downward direction, and then the rocket moves with a high speed to the upward direction. Okay, and these rocket engines have travel with a speed of 11,000 kilometers per hour, I mean up to a 9 mach. So this is the 9 mach speed of 11,000 kilometers per hour. Okay, this is about rocket engine, which is also a which we call it as hypersonic speed. Okay, so this is about the rocket engine notes. You can also refer it further. And then this is the comparison of jet engines with rocket engines. So let me give you a keen comparison of rocket engines along with the jet engines. So as I have already said in the previous slides, these jet engines are dependent upon the atmosphere, because these travel in the atmosphere itself. So they do not carry any oxidizer tank with it, because the atmospheric air itself acts as an oxidizer for these jet engines. So these rocket engines, these are specially designed to travel in the space. So these are independent to the atmosphere, and they carry their own oxidizers with this. So this is about the basic comparison. And when it comes to the fuel consumption, rockets consume high amount of fuel, and the thermal efficiency of the rockets are also low when compared to the jet engines. And the fuel consumption is also very low to the jet engines when compared to the rocket engines, because rockets, in order to produce high amount of thrust to the rocket engines, a lot amount of fuel is required to the rocket. So here the consumption of fuel is very high when compared to the jet engines. So this is a basic comparison of jet engines with the rocket engines. Okay, so now this is the main important part, the fuels used in the propulsion unit. So whatever might be the fuels which we are using in the propulsion unit, we have to consider one thing, that that fuel should have higher calorific value, low freezing point. Low freezing point because when these units, the aircrafts or the rockets, when they are moving upwards, the temperature is reduced. So at that time, these fuels must have the capability uh, to withstand that temperature. So when they are at the time when they work properly, okay. So when they supply the fuel continuously, only the combustion takes place. So the fuel must have low freezing point, okay, and then it should also have higher calorific value, and it also should be able to produce high thermal efficiency in order to provide good thrust to the engine. So when it comes to the propulsion units, we are using aviation petrol, aviation kerosene, gasoline, paraffin, so natural gas. These are some of the main fuels which we are using in the propulsion units. So you might have get a doubt regarding all these things. Like, what is the difference between aviation petrol and the petrol which we are using in the on the roadways? So there is no much more difference in that. So there is the only difference is that the presence of hydrocarbon rate in the in the fuels, that's it. And the hydrocarbon rate, where when the hydrocarbon rate is high, here we are using the hydrocarbon rate is around 7 to 12, okay. If the hydrocarbon rate is around 7 to 12, then it is used for the aviation as a fuel, and if it is below 7, then we are using for the roadways. And because another thing we have to consider is that the petrol or the fuels which we are using in the roadside on the road for roadways, so if we use these as an aviation fuels, these cannot withstand the temperatures which they are flying at, because at that certain height the temperatures will be of minus 40 degrees Celsius. So at that time the fuels which we are using on roadways, so these may freeze. So when they starts getting freezed up, then what happens is that there might be an incomplete combustion takes place, and sufficient thrust cannot be produced to the engine. So in that case we are using special fuels like aviation petrol, kerosene. The only basic difference is that the presence of hydrocarbon levels, that's it. The hydrocarbon level, if it is of up to around 7 to 12, then we are using for the aviation fuels, okay. And then when it comes to the propellants, here we are very well known that propellants are further divided into two types: solid propellants as well as the liquid propellants. So solid propellants are further divided into two types: solid double base propellant and solid composite propellants. So solid double base propellants, they do not carry oxidizer and fuel separately. This is a single component, and when at the time of combustion these break into two separate components and liberate high amount of heat. So these solid double base propellants are like nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin. These are some of the solid double base propellants which we are using in the solid engines, I mean solid as a solid propellants. And these are highly efficient, I mean these are mostly used for the small rocket engines itself, okay. And when it comes to the solid composite propellants, these carry oxidizer and fuel separately, okay. And the oxidizers such as ammonium chlorate and potassium chlorate, so these are some of the oxidizers, and the fuels such as hydrocarbons are used for this solid propellants. One thing we have to consider is solid propellants are now in the present days we are using it for military purposes, for generating missiles, okay. I mean for generating uh, to provide sufficient thrust for the missiles itself, okay. In the present days we are using this liquid propellants. When compared to the solid propellants, the use of liquid propellants are very high in the modern days because of its own advantages. And and another thing is that these liquid propellants have the capability to provide higher thrust when compared to the solid propellants. So and because of all these reasons we are using these liquid propellants in the present rocket engines, okay. And so these rocket engines also carry, I mean these liquid propellants are also carry oxidizer and fuel separately. And oxidizers such as liquid oxygen, nitric acid, and liquid fluorine, these are some of the oxidizers which we are using in the liquid propellants. And then when it comes to the fuels which we are using here is alcohol, liquid hydrogen, kerosene. These are some of the fuels which we are using in the rockets as a liquid propellants, for liquid propellants. Okay, so another thing, the most important thing, what is the difference between the solid propellant and liquid propellant is that for solid propellant there is an additional component which is present, is called as igniter. Okay, this igniter is used for initial ignition. Okay, this igniter is used for initial ignition purpose. And when it comes to the solid propellant rocket engines, these carry a propellant mixer, call it as hypergolic. This is of methanol hydrogen. So methanol hydrogen is a liquid propellant which is used along with the fuel as well as oxidizer in the combustion chamber for spontaneous ignition. So this is about the jet propulsion unit. So I hope you understood well. So I kindly request you to subscribe my channel, and please hit a like and subscribe my channel. And if you have any doubts, so please comment in the comment section. Sure, I will try my level best to clear your doubts. Thank you. So thank you one and all for this great presentation. Okay, I hope you will be subscribing my channel and giving your valuable comments, as well as if you have any doubts, please comment in the below comment section. For sure, I will try my level best to answer for your questions. Okay.